Man, this story gets crazier and crazier. Today, we take a deep dive into a bombshell article put out yesterday that can maybe provide some more context on how the Sixers and James Harden got here. Perfect. What is up, everybody? RB here. Welcome into Philly Take with RB. You know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell. Don't miss any of the content. Also, be sure you are supporting everywhere. We have a Philly Take Discord chat that is growing every day. Going to be doing a lot of cool stuff, some giveaways over there, so go check it out. Links down below in the description. Follow on Instagram, Twitter. Go support in every single way. We're going to take this thing up and up as we go this season. But Ramona Shelburne put out a bombshell of an article yesterday, and she actually just went on NBA Today a few hours ago, and this is what she had to say currently about James Harden. She says, quote, James Harden and his teammates are fine. James Harden and Nick Nurse are fine. That's contrary to what we heard before. He's just not fine with Daryl Morey. That's what she said on NBA Today. So I posed the question here. Again, go follow me. I said, is it possible that Harden works this out and suits up for the Sixers to start the season? What do you think? Give me your thoughts down below in the comment section. I feel like we're on a never-ending revolving cycle of the Sixers circus. Day 5,600,000. The Harden carousel taking another ride. But today we got a few new nuggets in this story. Now, again, this is what Ramona's reporting. I'm not saying it's true or not. I'm just giving what has been reported and stating my thoughts on it. Now, here's James Harden's thoughts. He put this on his Instagram story yesterday after the report and the story on ESPN came out. And he says, y'all got to chill with these reports. I'm going to start reporting stuff. Well, what you need to do, James, is start reporting to camp. That's what you need to do. You need to get your bags ready and go report to camp because Daryl Morey is not going to trade you. He said it himself, and the Sixers feel like they can compete, and that is where they're at. So James Harden responds. He obviously did not like it, and I went through and summarized some of my main points. So I want to go through it. Again, it's a well thought out, well-written article. You don't get that a lot nowadays. Shout out to Ramona. Go check it out on ESPN. I'm going to go through some of my main takeaways from this piece, and we'll talk about how we got here. The first thing I want to do is highlight this part of the article where James Harden says, quote, you have to sacrifice to get to where you have never been. James, you have to sacrifice to get to where you have never been. Come on now. You got to take your own advice here. I understand you did a great thing for the team last year, but listen to your own words. You're speaking the facts here. This was months ago when he said this. He says, I'm in a really good space on and off the court. He knew the reason he was sacrificing was the Sixers didn't feel comfortable offering him a new max contract upwards of $270 million. They were still evaluating him, much like he had been evaluating the Nets a year earlier when they offered him a max deal, and he said he wanted to see how things went. He turned it down himself, and that was his decision. The dream of recreating the glory days in Houston had probably already passed them by, but they played it out anyway. The sacrifice narrative was created, and it worked for everybody until it didn't. What Harden didn't realize was how little he'd be left with when it all came apart, a.k.a. reality set in, and James Harden has not accepted it yet. Now, I want to go back to my first main takeaway of this piece from Ramona. This is a new nugget. Listen up. James Harden was upset about not being named to the All-Star game and ignored Adam Silver's offer to be an injury replacement. Sixer fans were infuriated. Myself, I remember making the video. I was pissed. James Harden deserved to be an All-Star, and he wasn't. But I didn't know this. According to Ramona Shelburne, James Harden decided not to be in the All-Star game, and it says in late January, he wasn't voted to be an All-Star. He was dismayed at the snub, and it didn't help that his former net teammates, Katie and Kyrie, had been voted in as starters. Still, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver was prepared to name him as an injury replacement. Harden just had to give assurances that he would show up and play in the game. However, he did not answer for days. He went quiet. Ramona says he was pouting. By the time Harden sent word he would accept, Silver had moved on, and Pascal Siakam was named as the replacement for KD. If this is true, grow up, James. Stop being a baby. You could have been in the All-Star game. You should have been there automatically, right, with how you played. There were a lot of good players, a couple that didn't get in. If this is actually true, I agree. You are pouting, and I mean, come on. Come on, James. Come on, James. That's ridiculous. But anyway, that's something we did not hear before or know. The second thing is that Doc Rivers expressed concern, listen to this, during a team meeting about James Harden's nightlife and partying. We heard when Doc got fired, there was a lot of beef back and forth and a lot of scuffling, and we knew there was some reports about James and his nightlife and traveling and all this stuff, but now we got more insight into the situation, and there just seems to be a lot of friction between Doc and James, more than we even thought originally throughout the season. So here is what is said in the article. In mid-December, Doc lit into Harden for taking the final 3 shots in the regulation of a double OT loss against the lottery Rockets. I remember streaming that game. I was pissed. It was not that Rivers did not trust Harden to take the shots. It allowed him to call the offense and call his own number. But the Rockets had no answer for Embiid. I remember that game. People were saying, oh, Joel should have called for the ball. Joel should have done this, and that. And James Harden was 4 for 19. And he was questioned about it in the film session, and Harden said he couldn't get the ball to Embiid. The flare-ups between Harden and Rivers continued throughout the season. Apparently, there was already friction at that point, early in the year after that loss, and later on February 27th, when Philly lost at home, the team who had knocked the Sixers out of the playoffs a year ago, there was nothing all that remarkable, but 2 nights earlier, they had dropped the game to the Celtics, and for a team with championship aspirations, it was a moment to refocus, especially with the next game being a rematch. However, Harden did not travel with the team to Miami. This is what we started to hear whispers about, towards the end of the season and even after, about Harden and Rivers, when we really started to hear like, okay, they're butting heads. And it says here, Harden traveled separately after that Miami game with permission from the front office to enjoy nightlife. This is not uncommon in the NBA or for Harden, but it did not sit well with Doc Rivers and several other players on the team. Days later, Doc Rivers brought it up in a meeting, specifically mentioning several of the players who expressed concern about Harden's actions. The whole episode was, quote, uncomfortable. And even if they agree with the substance of the message to Harden and the idea of holding him accountable, it was very awkward for the players who were named. So these players had some type of feeling some way about it, and Doc called them out and said, they're not happy with it either. And it just created some weird team friction. That is a report here from Ramona Shelburne about James Harden going out and partying instead of traveling with the team. So you take that for what it is. If true, again, he's allowed to do what he wants, but that is not a good look. And then for Doc to kind of make it public in front of the whole team, I give Doc credit. I commend him for calling it out and saying, I don't like it, where a lot of other coaches would just let it fly. But yeah, that is going to create an awkward situation and an awkward tension between the two. And it says, if the Sixers are going to win the chip, this would have gone down as a turning point, right? It would have galvanized troops, but they did not. And then we get to the last part where the Sixers were stunned when James Harden opted in and requested a trade. They had planned to re-sign him. What? I thought they were never close. Wait, listen to this from Ramona Shelburne. She says that Morey made it clear that re-signing James Harden to a new contract was the team's priority, but there was debate internally. We all knew that. A couple other guys were getting signed. Harden was eligible for a $210 million max if he denied his player option, and he was expecting a contract in that range, having taken less the previous summer, but Harden had little leverage to extract that kind of offer from Philly. The Rockets' interest in reacquiring him had cooled down because Ime Udoka did not want him, and he was trying to set a new culture in Houston. He wanted to target defensive-minded players. No other strong suitors. Harden was in a difficult spot. Thank you. Most of this is in line with what I've been saying, but the offer, the interest was not there, just given, the health, the age, etc., and not showing up in the big-time moments, and no team was going to give him that deal. If they were, Harden would have opted out, signed freely somewhere else, but nobody had the flexibility and nobody had the interest to do so. So what did James Harden do? He opted in, and it says his best leverage play was a play with Morey, who made his career in the NBA by seeing Harden's brilliance. But when it mattered most, Morey was not taking calls from Harden's camp. James felt like Daryl was ghosting him. Rather than wait for Morey and the Sixers to present an offer, Harden and his reps decided to pick up the player option and ask for a trade. The Sixers were stunned at Harden's decision, insisting to him and his reps that they had been distant because they were hit with a tampering fine and they had every intention of re-signing him as soon as the rules allowed. So here we're saying this dynamic that Harden thought he would be in contact. The Sixers are saying we didn't do it because we didn't want to get hit with another tampering and lose more draft picks that we don't have already. And James Harden saying, well, you kind of left me out of the loop. But James Harden also had no other offers. The Rockets didn't want him back. So both teams were in a bad situation. And Harden was too far gone. James takes things very personally. When he feels like he's been wronged, he can be very stubborn. That is a fact. That's why he comes back to camp and plays the way he does when he's pissed off. And that's how he's going to do it with the Sixers if they don't get out of there. Now, it says that Morey left Harden alone, and he started talking to not only the Clippers, but the New York Knicks. The Knicks were in contact about James Harden, but as a result, no team was willing to give up anything because they didn't have interest originally in James Harden. Daryl Morey wants a star, brought in Nick Nurse. The Sixers want to compete. Both sides are just not seeing eye to eye. They don't even seem close, but right now, the Sixers are preparing to go on. They're preparing to will through this just like they did with Ben Simmons and play games and try to be competitive with Nick Nurse. So it's either James suits up or don't forget the Sixers can block him if he doesn't play this year from going anywhere else. So this is more insight onto the situation. Let me know what you think down below. I'm just here giving you what the report says. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. That being said, I will catch you all on the next one. Peace.